This is a normal keyboard, and this is a low-profile keyboard. It's thinner, it's lighter, it's better. Now, the problem with most low-profile keyboards is that they suck. They cost hundreds of dollars, and they sound like this. But while you've been using a normal keyboard, low-profile keyboards have been getting better. Now they're at the point where they're ready to blow your socks off. This is the Lofree Flow Lite. I've been using it for about a week now, and I've got to say, it's surprisingly good. And this video is not sponsored. I just want to show you a keyboard that I don't think is getting enough attention. So right now, you can get this for only $79, which is nearly half the price of other low-profile keyboards on the market. But what makes this one so special, and how is it so cheap? This keyboard comes as a follow-up to the Lofree Flow 84, which made quite the splash when it launched, with most people considering it one of the best low-profile keyboards ever. And the new Flow Lite makes a lot of huge upgrades over the original keyboard. For one, it's about 10% lighter, which may not sound like a lot, but with a low-profile keyboard, the weight matters. And picking them both up, it feels significantly lighter. Instead of just Bluetooth connectivity, you get tri-mode wireless, which means you can connect with this dongle for a more stable option for connectivity. And right now, you can get it for 50% of the price of the Flow 84, which is crazy because I think this keyboard is better. Later on, we'll also compare this to another favorite low-profile keyboard, the Nuphy Air 75 V2, and see if it can beat it as well. Quick teaser though, the Flow Lite sounds better. So this is currently in Kickstarter and will end in about a month. You also get a manual, which I recommend holding on to. You also get this gray cable, and it's not braided or anything, but for some reason, it ends in a right angle. Usually cables are like this when the USB-C is on the side, like a Keychron keyboard. Not sure why Lofree did that. So first impressions out of the box, wow. This keyboard looks like it should have been made by Apple. I like that the case color is not a pure white like the Wu-Tang 80HE and the zinc alloy. Instead, they went for a slightly more cream color. You can also get this in flamingo pink or a darker gray color called marble. So they've got 3 color options in total. It's a lightweight keyboard, which makes it nice and portable. This case is made entirely of plastic, which compared to the Flow 84 aluminum case, you think that it's a downgrade. But I actually think the plastic is better when it comes to low profile. I don't need a tank of a keyboard. I just need something light and portable. So I think plastic is better in this case. The keyboard is slightly taller than the Flow to fit a horizontal scroll wheel on the top right. And the wheel is a nice copper aesthetic with small ridges on it. Each turn gives you feedback with small tactile bumps. I was worried that it would feel flimsy and cheap, but it's a lot better than some of the other knobs that I've seen. I don't like that it creates this forehead that's mostly just dead space, and I feel like they could have utilized the space better somehow. Now, I don't know if the knob here was worth adding an extra ½ inch to the size of the keyboard. Next to the knob, you've got an indicator for battery life, and this will light up when it needs to be charged. You also have your USB-C port and the toggle between off, wired, and wireless. And on the top left, you've got the Lofree branding. Now, I actually prefer the branding on the Flow 84, which is located on the side, but I guess with the extra real estate from the forehead, they didn't really want that space to be completely empty. There is also a light indicator on the caps lock key, which glows white when it's turned on. The back has 2 kick-up feet with one angle that you can use to raise the back of your keyboard. This makes it extra comfortable to type on. Now, I'm not a fan of these rubber feet that can slip right off of the plastic. They come off really easily, and they might fall off when you throw this into your backpack. There's also a dongle holder too, and at first glance, it looks too open, but it fits really snug. I like that they have a storage solution built into the keyboard. Now, it would have been nice if they've also included a USB-C to USB-A adapter, like how Keychron does, so that you don't have to reach around to your computer to plug in your dongle. It also decreases the distance between your dongle and your keyboard. The keycaps are nice and smooth. The profile is flat, and I didn't notice any mistakes with the font or the placement of the keys. They're the same cream color as the case, and if you get the white one, they're the same color as the case, same with the flamingo. They are shine through, so you can see your keys at night with the keyboard's white backlighting. It's super clean. You can easily change the brightness levels too. I use about 50% to save battery life, and you've got Windows and Mac Legends on the F row and the bottom row. So this keyboard is compatible with Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android, but not Linux. You probably could use it for Linux. The software called Lofree Key Mapper is only available on Windows. However, nowhere on the manual or in the website does it tell you where to install this software. It would have been better to have a browser-based software app that could work on Windows, Mac, and Linux. So how does it feel to actually use this keyboard? Well, setting it up was not as seamless as I had hoped. I struggled a bit when I first tried to connect to my PC wirelessly. So I had to open the little manual to figure it out. So to connect to Bluetooth, you turn the toggle switch to wireless mode and then hold FN 1, 2, or 3 until it blinks to connect to your laptop or PC. It can remember up to 3 Bluetooth devices that you can switch through by pressing FN 1, 2, and 3, respectively. To use 2.4 gigahertz, you make sure that your keyboard is off. You plug in your dongle to your laptop. Then you turn on the toggle to wireless mode and then hold FN 4 until caps lock blinks 3 times. Afterwards, you don't have to do this again because it remembers. How convenient. All these extra steps are frustrating because as a consumer, all I want to do as soon as I get my keyboard is plug it in and just have it work. Now, despite this early hiccup, I've been using this keyboard as my daily driver for a week now, and I am impressed. For a low-profile keyboard, I was shocked at how good it sounded. It can actually compete with a normal mechanical keyboard. So listen to this $170 Crush 80 compared to the Flow Lite. So this is due to their new switches and their case design. Underneath each keycap is their new Kale Spectre switch. Now, every Flow Lite comes with these switches, but you do have the option to also buy the Hades switches or the Ghost switches separately. So all 3 switches are linear switches. You feel no bump when you type. It's smooth, straight up and down. They don't offer tactile switches in this Kickstarter, but on their website, they do have a tactile and clicky option for sale. So the nice sound of these new switches comes from their full palm material, which is supposed to be smoother and have a thockier bottom out than other materials. They're also pre-lubed nicely. You hear no pinging sounds when you're typing, even if you're typing really fast and heavily. The Flow Lite is hot swappable, so if you don't like what you have inside your keyboard, you can replace them with different switches. Taking them out of your keyboard is a little bit difficult, so make sure you have a high quality switch puller. The one that comes with their switches is not sturdy enough. So the Go switch is heavier with a force of 50 grams when you press on it. It also makes a slightly deeper sound. The new switches, the Hades and the Spectre switches, have a force of 40 grams. This makes it easier to type longer and faster with it. The Hades switches are also silent. When you press on the Spectre, it makes this nice creamy sound. When you use the Hades, it doesn't do that. It's much more muted. So inside the Hades switches are O-rings that prevent it from making any sound on the bottom out and on the top. So the Hades switch is perfect for a public environment if you're worried about the sound of the Spectre switches. So it's not only the switches that lets this keyboard sound and feel good, it's also what's inside. So to take this keyboard apart, you unscrew these 2 screws in the back and then you pry the rest of the case open. They're very small Torx screws, so be careful not to strip them or lose them. It has 1 thick ribbon cable, so be careful not to tear this when opening your case. The bottom of the case comes with this layer of PU foam to absorb unwanted sounds. PU, it's like it's stinky. Between the plate and PCB is a layer of silicone and an IXPE sheet to make it sound more creamy. The Flow Lite is gasket mounted, so you get a flexible and bouncy typing experience compared to a keyboard that is much stiffer. And they do this with 8 silicone gaskets placed throughout the plate. As a result, the Flow Lite has a nice, rich, deep typing sound. So here's a quick side-by-side comparison sound test with and without a 2-layer blue tape mod on the back of the PCB. And you might be thinking, why are you doing this? This mod is common and cheap to do. Many people like the way that it makes their keyboard sound. It may avoid your warranty, so do this at your own risk. In this case, it made the sound much deeper and thockier, but remember to put your ribbon cable back in before closing it. The typing feel is a bit soft, but it's nowhere near the amount of flex as a normal mechanical keyboard. For you gamers out there who work and play, you might be worried about the latency speed. Surprisingly, the Flow Lite has 1000 Hz polling rate when using the 2.4 GHz connection as well as wired, while no effect on latency that made me need to plug it in. The battery life isn't bad either. Inside is a 2000 mAh battery in the 75% version and a 3000 mAh battery in the 96% version. They estimate that it lasts 80 hours with the lights off. I use the lights, so I expect my battery life to be closer to 50 hours. So how does it compare to a normal mechanical keyboard? Does it feel satisfying to use? Does it sound as good? For one, the case design is much lower. You can rest your wrists while you type rather than hovering them over your keyboard. So it's more convenient and more comfortable. I opted for a low profile Nuphy wrist rest, which to me makes it much more comfortable to use, but some people don't like that. Another difference is that the keys are flat instead of tapered like the cherry profile in this keyboard. Honestly, I didn't feel like I was missing out on much. I still had a great sounding keyboard that was easy and nice to use. If you're already using a low profile keyboard though, the height is similar. It's not much of a difference. You will notice a difference in feel and sound though if you switch to the Flow Lite. The Nuphy Air 75 V2 feels much more hollow to type on. It doesn't have nearly as much foam as the Flow Lite. The Air 75 V2 comes with Via though, which is a browser software that you can use to remap the keys and do it really fast. And it's also compatible on Mac, Windows, and Linux. But this isn't a full-on comparison video. We do plan on making a video on the best low-profile mechanical keyboards in a month or two, so be on the lookout for that. We've got a ton of low-profile keyboards that we've been testing these past couple months. It'll include the best ones between all of these and maybe more. So compared to the Lofree Flow, which is their predecessor, the Lofree Flow Lite just sounds better. It has more visibility with the backlighting. It's got the 2.4 GHz connection. The Flow doesn't have any of that. The Flow Lite's more portable. It's got the volume scroll wheel. I'm not sure why anybody would buy the Flow anymore unless they really wanted the aluminum frame. And then there's Keychron. Well, there's not much to say here. It's tall for a low profile keyboard. It's got floating keycaps and it just doesn't sound as good. Here's a sound test of the Flow Lite, the Nuphy Air 75 V2, the Flow, the Edge, and the Keychron K17 Max for your comparison. So the Flow Lite comes out as a clear winner, but it does have its drawbacks too. The biggest one is the software that I was unable to find anywhere. However, with 84 keys or 100 keys, you're not missing much. Even if I had the software, I wouldn't remap any keys. The second problem is that it's in Kickstarter, so you have to wait to get your products. Kickstarters can be risky, but Lofree's shown that they're a reliable company. They've successfully completed past Kickstarters like the Flow and the Edge keyboards. After the Kickstarter, Lofree states that their MSRP will be $129 and $139, which is high. Now that doesn't even make sense when the aluminum Flow is $159. Doesn't make sense. The Kickstarter price is much more affordable. You do have the option to buy more switches and keycaps, so switches cost an extra $39 for each set, with subsequent sets saving you more money. The most unfortunate thing though is that if you want a silent low profile, you have to buy the keyboard and buy the switches, and by then it's like $130 instead of the original $90. If you're interested, take a look at the link in the Kickstarter down in the description. So quick question to you, what do you think about low profile keyboards? Are you surprised at how good they've gotten? Join our Discord server to talk about keyboards.